This video was brought to you by my loyal patrons. Pledge today and receive exclusive perks. Link in the description. Who would have thought in 2025 we'd be getting new lore about the Railway series? 2025 is nearing its end, and it has been quite the year for Thomas and Friends. Many people involved with the books and the shows all stepped forward and got their voices heard, especially the Awdry family. Christopher Awdry, the son of Wilbert Awdry, after nearly 10 years of being out of the spotlight, has finally revealed himself once again and republished his book, Sodor, Reading Between the Lines. This is a lore book that follows up on Wilbert's Island of Sodor book, with additional information about the series, stories, and settings. First published in 2005, Christopher later came to understand that the book is rather rare now, and went for quite a lot of money on the aftermarket. Seeing as it is the 80th, and the 20th anniversary of the book itself, he saw it as a perfect opportunity to republish it, and add some new material. But he's not the only Awdry that's been busy. Christopher's son, Richard, has seemingly taken over as the lore keeper of the series. He appeared at Awdry Extravaganza 5 and presented a lecture called Sodor in 2025, written entirely by him, in which he talked about many of the developments on Sodor in recent years. With all of these revelations, I thought it'd be fun to finally go through the bigger ones in detail and catch you all up to speed on what's been happening on this little island. What is Sodor like in 2025? The fourth Fat Controller. The Northwestern Railway has finally gained its fourth Fat Controller. Stephen Hatt became the third controller of the Northwestern Railway in 1984. Stephen was born in 1941, putting him in his 80s by the 2020s. In 2021, Christopher confirmed that Stephen was indeed still controller at age 80. Many of us fans started to wonder when he'd finally retire and let his son, Richard, finally take the throne. Well, it finally happened. In 2023, Stephen at last retired at age 83 and was succeeded by Richard. The Northwestern Railway finally gained its fourth Fat Controller, Sir Richard Hatt. Richard was 51 when he took the title, leaving no doubt that he has a long, exciting career ahead of him. He presented his father with a rather unique retirement gift, a little old engine, once long thought to be forgotten. Neil. Neil survives. We finally have confirmation that Neil did indeed survive long after the formation of the Northwestern Railway in 1914, which was the last we ever heard of him. I don't think we know what he's been doing all these years out of sight, collecting dust in storage, I guess. But in 2023, Neil was given to Stephen as a retirement gift, and as of 2025 has been restored. After retiring, Stephen Hatt helped set up the Crovan's Gate Preservation Society, or CGPS for short. The society owns a museum to house preserved engines in. They currently only have one engine, Neil, which Stephen entered into the collection upon receiving him. Neil is, apparently, in working order and can be steamed up for excursions. As Bloomer is technically canon, I'd personally like to think that at some point, he too would become a part of this museum collection. I'd also like to think the society at some point would raise funds to construct a new-built coffee pot replica, but that's just my own wishful thinking. We've struck coal. In the 2010s, the University of Sodor performed a study in the northern tip of Sodor, which resulted in the uncovering of coal reserves there. Now this is a pretty significant reveal for how it relates to recent real-world events. The last few years, the UK has made large efforts to fully move away from using coal as fuel for their plants, with Britain's last ever coal mine, Fawsey Fran, closing in November 2023. Meaning, coal is no longer mined in the UK, and all remaining users of coal, in our case, heritage railways, have to now import it from places like mainland Europe, raising costs. Some railways have tinkered with coal alternatives as a result of this, such as the Tallyclin with yellow coal briquettes. As Christopher originally stated in Sodor Reading Between the Lines, Sodor has never had a coal mine of its own. It imports it all in from Britain. So the closure of the final UK coal mine, and not to mention import complications from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, this would have posed a pretty big dilemma for Sodor, which is home to entire fleets of coal-burning steam engines. So the discovery of coal reserves on Sodor is a miraculous find. The new coal in this vein was found to be of reasonable quality for steam engines, so Sodor now has its own resource of coal to use for its own locomotives. And who knows, maybe it exports it out to the mainland heritage railways. I'd sure like to think they do. I don't believe it was stated in the lecture if a rail line was built up north to this new mine, but in a follow-up response from Richard himself through communications with Luke Ryan, he did confirm that there is coal traffic from the north on the new Harwick line. More on that in a bit. The Last HST Set. Let's leave the steamers and talk about some diesels now. Pip and Emma, the Northwestern's high-speed train set, still run their twice-a-day service from Tidmouth to London. This is significant, because in real life, LNER and Great Western removed HSTs from their mainline services in 2019, with the final one departing London Paddington on May 19th. Some HST sets are still used today, though none of them run into London. Pip and Emma are quite proud to be the last remaining members of their class in regular service on the mainline. They're the only set that still serve London, and I like to imagine that they often get photographed by rail enthusiasts there. Even something as modern as Pip and Emma are now considered rather quaint by today's standards. Speaking of which, new century, new traffic. Even the quaint storybook land of Sodor is not exempt from the march of time. The real Barrow station lacks the proper facilities, so there is less through traffic from Sodor to the mainland there now. Nowadays, most Sodor passenger services terminate at Vickerstown, and exchange there with Class 195 units for the mainland. This is a fun change-up. It appears Vickerstown has become a Sodor terminus again, like it was when it was first built. This is kind of funny to me, for it inadvertently mirrors how Vickerstown operates in the TV series. Sodor trains end there, and mainland trains start there. The only through passenger train would of course be Pip and Emma's service, which is non-stop to London. Tidmouth Harbour still remains as the biggest and busiest harbour on Sodor, and has been expanded to handle modern container traffic. I'm really happy to hear this. I always wondered if the Northwestern used modern goods stock in the 80s, 90s, and onwards, cause we never really see much of it in the books, at least on the mainline. Good to know that the railway has finally progressed to container trains. Class 66 diesels from the mainland are a common sight on Sodor now, which come to collect the container trains from Tidmouth to take to the mainland. Though on occasion, these trains are hauled by Henry or James, with the engines of course being exchanged at Vickerstown. What a sight that must be! Imagine a pre-grouping 100-plus-year-old engine like James hauling modern-day container trains. A truly bizarre combination. The Austerity Engine. The Austerity Engine is one of the most elusive characters in the Railway series. Before we get into it, let me explain the backstory here. The Austerity Engine got its roots in the book Wilbert the Forest Engine. The book, which takes place in 1993, opens up explaining Donald and Douglas are overworked, and Stephen Hatt considers bringing in a Hunslet Austerity saddle tank engine to help them. But before he commits to buying one, he wants to try one out. He speaks with a friend at the Dean Forest Railway, and they allow him to borrow Wilbert. Wilbert proves successful, and by the end of his stay, Stephen is sold on buying a Hunslet Austerity saddle tank.
By the end of his stay, the Fat Controller knew that an engine like Wilbert was exactly what he needed.
And it's never brought up again. This Austerity engine is never mentioned again, nor is brought up in any of the lore material. It's one of the few loose ends in the Railway series with no follow-up. It has remained an absolute enigma in the fandom, and many fans have created their own OCs to fill the void. Well, we now finally have an answer to who the Austerity engine is. Christopher has asked about the engine in his book's FAQs section, in which he says, "The Austerity engine was called Walter, and his color scheme is black." We have a name, folks, and a color scheme. I present the Northwestern's 13th steam locomotive, Walter. Unfortunately, we don't know many specifics about him. We don't know where he came from, what his livery looks like, other than it's black, nor what year he was brought to Sodor. But we do know why he was brought there. Sodor goes nuclear. A railway line up the west coast to Harwich has always been a point of discussion throughout the series. As we all know, the first plans to run a train line up there came during World War I, when the Admiralty wanted the ability to run armored trains all along the coast in defense of potential attack. However, by the time they reached Arlesborough in 1916, the conflict had passed and the plans were dropped. The idea of a rail link between Arlesborough and Harwich was proposed again in the 40s, but once again was shot down because it was found that the roadway services would suffice the transport needs. In the TV series canon, the extension to Harwich was built, and its construction occurred in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. 10 years later, and I still cannot believe that they brought this very niche deep-cut thing into the TV series and made it the main setting of a whole movie. The new line was completed by the movie's end, and is now run by Daisy and Ryan. I'm happy to say that the long-proposed Harwich extension did finally come to be in the railway series, and was built sometime prior to 2020. The new track up the coast was laid to enable development of a nuclear power plant near Drogen y Clagan, which took advantage of the uranium sourced from the abandoned lead mines at Toryrek. The line also serves offshore wind farms in the north of Sodor. The proposal was to originally upgrade the old roads to handle the heavy goods traffic for these projects, but this was frowned upon by the Sodor Industrial Relations Service. So, they built a new railway line instead, and the Harwich extension finally came to be. Walter was brought to Sodor specifically to help with the line's construction. With Richard confirming traffic from the coal mine up north also runs on this line, we can conclude that a line was built to it at some point as well, or to some sort of dumping point that trucks bring the coal down to, where it is then loaded into railway wagons. The Harwich extension mostly runs goods, coal down from the new mine hauled by presumably Walter, and materials to and from the power plant, including occasional nuclear waste trains. These waste trains are transported across Sodor to Sellafield to be processed. Thanks to the new plant and the wind farms, Sodor is now a net exporter of emission-free electricity to the UK mainland. Now, I don't think there was any mention of any stations built on this new line, but as Richard confirmed via email, it does run a sparse passenger service. So I have to imagine that a station or a halt of some kind was erected at Harwich. These passenger trains are more than likely run by Duck and Oliver during peak hours, as an extension of their normal service. And I think that's everything. Everything major, anyways. Bit of a shorter video this time around, but I felt all of these deserve their own video, rather than being a part of something else larger. Richard Hadd is now controller, Sodor's gone nuclear, Neil survived, and Walter is real. Pretty awesome revelations. And to be honest, I think it all adds up pretty well. Nothing seems too crazy or out of the question. The only thing that really makes me raise an eyebrow is what on earth was Neil doing for the 100-something years he was out of sight? Was he in a shed somewhere in storage? Was he in pieces? Maybe some kind-hearted person tried to save him and kept him hidden. Who knows? There's definitely a story there, and I'd love to see someone try and work with it. I'm really happy that the Audrey family is still as involved with the world of Sodor as much as they are. You can tell that they really do care about what Wilbur created and want to keep the story alive. I hope that Richard returns with more information in a future lecture someday. We just gotta know what's happening on Sodor in 2050, gosh darn it! The Sodor in 2025 lecture is now up on the Tallyclin Railway's YouTube for channel members. So if you missed the live stream during Audrey 5, now is your chance to finally watch it. Link is in the description. Since this video is entirely about Railway Series lore, how about a Railway Series video? This week I'm spotlighting the NWR Stories 1983, by Sodor NWR Steam. This is the final entry in his modernization series, and it focuses on Diesel. Without spoiling anything, this is a story about Diesel's return to Sodor 30 or so years after the events of Duck and the Diesel Engine. It shows what he's been up to since, and how changes on the mainland have affected him. It's a very sweet tale, and I expect nothing less from Sodor NWR Steam. His stuff is always great. We're nearing the end of 2025 now. Christmas is around the corner, and 2026 is almost upon us. I have 2 more videos planned for the year. One is a Christmas video. It's a little unorthodox compared to my usual content, but I think you all will find it fun. I'm still debating posting it here on my main or on my second channel, The Lucky Tug. I haven't decided yet. That'll likely be posted on Christmas Eve, pending that it doesn't run into any copyright issues. The other video will be a recap of Thomas's 80th anniversary, sort of a sequel to the 80th So Far video that I did earlier in the year. In that, I'll cover all the exciting reveals and announcements that have happened this year. I've been keeping a running list of everything that's happened, updating it day to day as something crazy happens. That will likely come out on New Year's Eve, so look out for that too. And that is all I got for y'all as far as updates on the channel go. By the way, Bachman's handle's out! Finally! I just got mine last week. Been waiting ages for him. He's a lovely little thing, and I highly recommend him if you're interested in narrow gauge stuff. That's all from me, folks. If I don't see you all before then I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye!